All right, we are live.
Mhm.
Can we see whether everybody's gotten here?
We're gonna wait a few minutes anyway,
Okay,
just for people to stroll in.
okay. You hear my keyboard when I'm typing. You hear my keyboard.
Mechanical keyboards, yeah. So, and everyone who's tuned in, just give us a few minutes. I'm gonna be right back. Won't be more than 30 seconds.
Okay. Oops. Throw that away. Oh, we have a few people. Hello, guys. What's up?
All right. Well, to the people who are in, I see we have, about 10 people in chat right now.
Awesome.
We will wait until 35, and then we'll get started.
All right.
So, how's everyone doing? Anyone do anything fun this past week since we last met? I know you weren't here last week, Cole, but have you been up to anything?
Midterms and quizzes. Lots of midterms and lots of quizzes. But I have a reading week next week, so some nice relaxation time.
It's always good to have those over with, yeah.
Yeah. I still have, I think, one after next week, but it's fine.
Well, in the words of legendary pop singer Bon Jovi, oh, whoa, we're halfway there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, we're getting there. And then summer. Nice well, not really a break. I'm gonna be working, but
To anyone new, we're waiting just one more minute for our students to get here, and then we will get started.
yes.
Yeah, okay. I think this is a good time to. So,
All
hi
right.
everyone. Once again, welcome back. This is week 3 of our Unity Bit Camp. As you know, I am Michael, the head of all this. But you see, right underneath me, right about there, we have.
Hello. What's up? I'm Cole. I'm going to be your instructor for week 3. I'm from the Thompson Rivers University Game Development Club. Yeah, it's gonna be a fun week. We are going to go over 3 things mainly. We're gonna get input from the player. We're going to use it to affect the gameplay. We're going to go into writing project design documents, which is really crucial for making a game, like getting it down on paper. And then we're going to go over how to import assets from the Unity Asset Store and from just anywhere online.
And as per usual, I will, make myself scarce on the side here to give Cole the spotlight, but I will be here the whole time. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat, whether you're here on our live stream on YouTube or on Twitch. If you're watching this after the fact, obviously you can't really, but otherwise, feel free and I will just pop in and interject. Don't be shy.
All right, let's get started. So by the end of week 2, your project should have looked a little something like this. Just press the play button. You have the van. Oh, and the camera is kind of sitting here. So I know that the van moves on its own. It just kind of keeps going. So one quick thing, I know that you guys made this camera movement script, which is really great. Scripting is a really great way, especially if you're working with multiple cameras in your game, multiple perspectives. It's a great way to do it, but there is a quick and dirty way to do it, which I'll show you here. If you're just having one fixed camera perspective, this is just a really quick way to do it. So you just get your camera in position. You can just move it to where you want. Let's kind of put it so that it's just behind the van like this. So let's go 7 on the X, because that's the same as the vans, so that we're right behind it. So 4 on the Y and negative 16 on the Z, so that we're well behind it. And then the same way that these wheels are children of this van, we can make the camera a child of the van. And so now this camera will move wherever the van moves, but it will stay in that same fixed position relatively. And yeah, another good thing to do, so see how this main camera thing has a plus here? That's because we haven't actually committed it to this prefab of this van that we have here, this van object. So if we go into here, we go overrides in the inspector, and then we go apply all. And this will apply. See how this turns blue now? So now whenever we go into our course library, we go vehicles, whenever we pull this van in, it's going to have that camera. So if you're doing other scenes, whoops, I'm just going to delete that. So if you're doing other scenes or you want to make other levels, you can just pull that van in and it has all of the same functionality as it did here. So we're just going to play this. And look at that. It's going. The camera's behind the van and we're moving. So now we are going to get the van turning. So we're going to get the player input for turning and then add a turn speed like we did with the move speed, or the just regular speed of the van. So if we go into our script here, just double click there. All right, so we're in my script. So the first thing we need to do is make a public float turn speed. So one thing about variables. So down here we have, I think this is just the way Murray does it. But we have it down here is each one is separated by underscores, each word. This is one way to do variables. I do them where the first word is lowercase, and then after that it's uppercase. Either way is fine, whichever you prefer. It's totally a personal preference thing. Yeah. So either way. So we need to make a variable kind of like this. So a way that you can do it with this. So for the speed, you did it like it was done like this. So another way to do this is like this. So transform dot translate. It's the same as here, but instead we can do this vector3 dot right. So vector3 dot right. What that means is, so you see how you have the vector3 up here? It's 0 on the x, 0 on the y, and then speed times time dot delta time. Okay? So vector3 dot right is a shorthand for this. 1 on the x, 0 on the y, 0 on the z. So like, yeah, if we go back here, whoops. So it's using these like transform variables here. Gotta put semicolon. So we can use this times time dot delta time, like you did up here. Oops, I put that outside of the parentheses. Times time dot delta time, and times turn speed. So this is going to spit out a vector3 that's going to be vector3 1 0 0 times time dot delta time times turn speed. So if we go back into our game and wait for it to compile and turn speed up to say 5, we can play. And we just move right, which is a problem because this is supposed to be a game and you're supposed to be able to affect the game with the controls. So how we do that is we can use Unity's built-in input manager. So if we go to edit and then move down, so edit's up here, move down to project settings, and we move this over. So we're going to get, and if you go to the fourth one down in project settings in the window, you're going to get input manager. You open up these axes and you can see all of these different cool things. These different axes that, if we open them up, are mapped to different keys. So we have the horizontal axis, which is what we're going to use for side-to-side movement. So we have a negative button, a positive button, an alt negative button, and an alt positive button. And I'm going to explain how that's going to work in just a second, but just keep these buttons in mind: left, right, A, and D. So we are going to go back to our script and at the top, put in a public float horizontal input. If you can hear my keyboard, if that's a little bit annoying, it's I can't exactly turn it down. So how we're going to get this horizontal input? So horizontal input equals input. This is a built-in Unity class, very much like like this translate. So input dot get axis, and then you put in parentheses, and in double quotes you put horizontal. It's very important that you put a capital H. It is case sensitive. So now, if you kept in mind that A and left are negative and D and right are positive, this horizontal input will equal -1, 0, or 1 based on what we press. So if you press one of the positive buttons, D and right in the right arrow, it will return 1. If you press A or left arrow, it'll return -1. Oh, sorry, my phone's on. So unprofessional. And then if you press nothing, it'll return 0. So we know that if you times a number by 0, it will be 0. And if you times a number by 1, it will return whatever the previous operators had the number with. And if you times by -1, it will just flip that to negative. So what we can do is we take this transform.translate that we just wrote and just times it by horizontal input. And that's it. And if we go into the game, let it compile, we see that it goes. And if you press A, see this horizontal input variable is going to -1. And when you press D, it goes to 1. And you can turn right and left. So we have a game. It's a real game. So now we have to get this working with forward and backwards, which is really about the same process. Instead of doing, if you go back into the project settings and back into input manager, close horizontal, there is a vertical one, which is the same thing, except it's down and up and S and W. So it's basically the same process. You go up here, public float, forward input, or vertical input, whichever you prefer. And then we go down here, forward input equals input dot get axis. And instead of doing horizontal, we're going to do vertical. Remember, spelled it wrong. We're going to do vertical. Remember to put a capital V here. It's still case sensitive. And then we're just going to, in this, we have this my direction vector. So for this one, if you want to keep it this kind of, putting the variable up here and then having this down here, it's not that much of a change. You would really just go times forward input. Times that by forward input. And if we go into the game, we are not moving, but if we press W or up, we will go and we can press the sides, we can go back. Hey, now we can control this van. But there is a problem. This is not how cars work. Cars don't do this. Can't just strafe. So what we're going to do is instead of translating, we're going to rotate. So like rotate it like a car would. So if we go into our rotate tool, which is up here in the top left corner, this little like circle with arrows, we can click on that and it changes this. So usually you're on the move, which is like this one, but if you change to rotate, you have these lines. So this is rotating on the y-axis, this is rotating on the x-axis, and this blue one is rotating on the z-axis. So if we kind of mess around with these, we say, well, that's not quite right. Set that back to 0. This one is right. This is how a car should move. So we know that we have to rotate it on the y-axis. See, if we move it like this value here changes. Move it like that. All right, so we set that back to 0. And now we're going to go back into our code. This is a really easy change. So we know it's the y. So instead of doing vector3.right, we can do vector3.up. It's very similar to vector3.right, except instead of being a shorthand for 1, 0, 0, it's a shorthand for 0, 1, 0. So 0 on the x, 1 on the y, 0 on the z. And then instead of doing translate, so translate is moving, so you just like move straight there. So instead, we do rotate, transform.rotate. The rest of this stays the same because you can create an angle with this calculation here. So then we go back to the game, play, and the car is moving. And the camera stays. This is really slow. So we can turn up these values a bit. Let's turn the speed to like 20, and let's turn the turn speed to 45. So we can get a little bit better idea. Now we're moving. Now we're really moving. All right. So awesome. Yeah, that's basically how you get input. So we go over it. You have these horizontal and vertical input axes that map to WASD and the arrow keys that you can use to get the input from a player. And remember, you have to do this with math. You have to like times whatever, you have to multiply whatever speed you're going at by this input thing. It's not like you can't do an if statement with it or anything like that. And actually, if we go back into that input manager, there's a whole bunch of different ones. So like if we go back, so like there's fire one, which is on like mouse button and left control, and like jump, which is on space. So there's a lot of ways that you can use this input manager, and you can completely customize what these things do. So like if you want to switch this to S, you can just do that. We're not going to. All right. So yeah, that's basically how you're getting input from the player. So now we're going to clean this up a little bit. Let me show you a couple of ways you can clean up both the this hierarchy and your code. So in the hierarchy, it can get kind of messy if you add a bunch of objects. So actually, let's just add some stuff. So we go into this obstacles. There's these crates. So let's just like add some crates to the scene. We go back to the move tool up here, and we can just copy Control C, Control V, and move these crates up. G, and let's put one more. Now we've got these obstacles. They're very nice, except this hierarchy is now a mess. You know, they've got a crate up here, got crates down here. They're all everywhere. So what you can do is actually very similar to this environment kind of drop down here with the sky dome and the skybox and the road. So how you do that is you right click on the hierarchy, you go down here to create empty. You can press F2 to rename it. So let's rename it obstacles. Press enter, and now we can drag all of these crates into here. And now we can just tuck them away. And now they're not messy anymore. And you can not go insane. Yeah, with larger projects, this thing really fills up. So this is a really great tool for just making sure that all of your stuff is nice and clean and you can find everything on the hierarchy. You know, the last thing you want to do is go through a whole project and then have to scroll down through a giant hierarchy to find that one thing that's messing up. So we've gone over how to clean up the hierarchy. Now we can go over how to clean up your code. So we've been using public variables a lot, which is fine for like, you know, we have 4 variables. It's not a big deal. But again, when you get onto like these larger projects, it's kind of, it kind of sucks. So how we can change this by making it, instead of public, private. And then, so this can be set right in the script. So these values, and they have to be set in the script. You can't set them in the inspector when they're private. So so we had it at 45, I think. Yeah, so speed 45. Let's go turn speed equal, oh no, we had it at 20. We had the turn speed at 45. Turn speed at 45 and make this private. And then make this private. I'm going to make all of these private. So now, if we go back in here, back into Unity, let it compile. So now when we see my script, none of them are there. It's much nicer, especially when you got a lot of variables on your object. You don't want to go rooting through all of your variables to find one. But something to keep in mind, if you do want to see what your variables are doing, even if they're private, you can't change them. But if you go up here in your inspector, these three little dots, change it from normal to debug, and a whole bunch of stuff happens. But you can see all of your private variables. So if you're having a bug and you don't want to change all your variables back to public so you can see them, that's a really great way to kind of look at what your variables are doing in gameplay, because you can just like start the game and you can see that they're changing. So let's change that back to normal. Three dots up here, change it back to normal. All right, so another thing that you can do, I think you went over this last time because there's some comments here, is comments. Comments are super useful, and you should never, ever, ever get tired of using them, because they're, you write some code and then 6 months later you come back to it and you go, what does all this mean? And so we can change this. So if we just like kind of go through here, we can, above this like horizontal input stuff, we can just put like get player input and move car forward. And then above the rotate vehicle left and right. I like to capitalize my comments. You don't have to. And yeah, so this is like, and we can just put this as like variables. And then any variables we can add down here. Any variables we want to add. Just like generally. Yeah, so, and we can, up here, we can go private variables. Yeah, so this is just like a great way if you're like coming back to your code after a few months or even a week or a day, and you just want to go through it and immediately see what it means. Leaving comments is one of the best things you can do, especially when you're starting out. It's like when we're doing the weekly thing and you go back to your code, it's like, what did this do again? I totally forgot. But yeah. And that's it. Actually, this project is like van project, I believe it's done. So give yourselves a pat on the back. This is other than some homework we're going to assign at the end for this, but in the learning portion of it, it's done. You can move around at will, and you can go backwards and forwards. It's super fun. But yeah, awesome. Give yourselves a pat on the back. And that's all the coding we're going to do for today. So now we are going to get into the most exciting part of game development, which is writing project design documents like this one. Project design documents are really important because games, especially when you're making them over a large amount of time, they can change a lot. You start with something and then eventually you just like, it's nothing like what you started with. And this kind of thing in writing can keep you on track a lot with like your vision and what you want to do. So this is a really basic template um, of what like a design document should look like. So we're going to kind of just go through it and actually make this car game. And we're going to add some stuff to it and see what we can make of this, just like kind of tech demo into like a real actual game with goals and objectives. So in this player control section, you can say you control a car in this, and the game is third person in this third person game. If you don't know, that's when the camera is behind you. And then user input type. So this is like how the player would control. So we're pressing W/up arrow makes the player move forward or drive forward. And so this is a bit like setting out like the really basic ways of traversing. So during the game, let's say those crates that we put in earlier appear from the sky. They just drop out of the sky. And the goal of the game is to, let's say, get to the end of the track without hitting obstacles. And then like sound and effects, we can add like there will be sound effects for the car moving, like a vroom sound, and particle effects for the tailpipe. And you can put in more stuff here, more special effects. As the game progresses, more crates drop out of the sky, more crates drop out of the sky, more crates up out of the sky, making it harder to move. To get to the end. Sorry. Then we got the user interface, which is like it's also known as a HUD, heads up display. So like we can say the score will increase. Let's say the score will decrease whenever you hit a crate. And at the start of the game, the title, I don't know, Crate Dash, sure, will appear. And the game will end when you finish 5 levels. How about that? It's a small game. So this is a real game. We have turned, this like little car thing with just like some crates on a road in the middle of nowhere into like a real game with objectives and goals. And like when you're making a game, you usually don't think about like stuff like the sound effects or like particle effects or like what's really going to happen until you do this this project design document. So it's really important not only for keeping consistency, but helping you develop your idea further from like just a concept in your head. You can also put other features, any other like stuff that you want in it. And then there's the project timeline, which is super important for keeping yourself on track. So this is like different milestones. So you can put like player control by day to, oh, we did it. We did a milestone. And you can put in like menus and like making the goal and putting in sound effects, everything like that. And then you got like a backlog for stuff that's like not as important. Yeah, but this is a super useful tool for just like keeping yourself on track. And then there's the project sketch, which we're not actually going to do because, well, we're not going to do it right now because we're in Word. But this project sketch it doesn't need to be like concept art, like really complicated and artsy. It's just like basic shapes, a circle and some squares and like a little end goal, just like kind of showing simply how your game is going to look, just from like a design perspective. So this is really important for just like visualizing and making sure that you've gotten your vision down. All right, and yeah, that's it for project design documents. This is a really simple template. There's when you're making bigger and bigger games, there are like bigger and bigger templates. This isn't the end all be all, but like this is a really great place to start, and for making small games in like this kind of a game with like one goal and one like for example, you could probably fit Flappy Bird into this project design document. Yeah, that's it for project design documents. And now we are going to go over my desktop. We are going to go over how to import assets. So we have this little tab here, the Unity Asset Store. It's always in there. That's just like kind of how the template is set up. So yeah, we can go through here and make this a little bigger. It's a little bit bigger. Yeah, so this is embedded into Unity itself. It's just the website. Yeah, so if we look in this assets, let's go 3D. We want to make a 3D game. Some of these assets cost money. Actually, a lot of them do. Yeah, like $800. We don't want to be spending that much money on assets, especially when we're just starting out. So there's this little button for free assets, and all of these assets down here will be free. So let's say we want to make our first-person shooter. So we have this little low poly FPS pack. It's free. Yep, and when we look at this page, we got to look at supported Unity versions. So 2017.1.1 or higher. We are at 2019.4.18, so we are good. And you can import this directly from the Unity Asset Store. And see, you've got this this little menu pops up, and you can turn on. You can like exclude or include any files or individual folders that you want. So you can like turn all these off, and you just want the audio stuff. You got like visual assets, but you just want all these like explosions and stuff. You can just get these or all of them. And then you just click this little import button. Don't actually do this because it's kind of weird to get out. So we wait for that to import. It takes a while. Sometimes it'll take a while. You just gotta be patient. But yeah, and this is going to, and this is going to go right into here. So if you go back to our scene, pull this back up. This will go right into our assets. So we got the low poly FPS pack, and we can just, we got all these all in here. Yeah. So and you can do that for any of these asset packs here. So like if you want to make a forest, you can just download it and then import it directly from the Unity Asset Store. But if you found assets that are not on the Unity Asset Store that you can't just import, that's a bit of a problem. You can't just put it in right from the Asset Store. So for this one, we're going to use this Toon Characters pack from Kenny. This is a really great place to find assets, both 3D and 2D, and they're for the most part free, which is great. So I already downloaded this. So we've got this Kenny Toon pack, and let's say we like this Male Adventurer sprite sheet. We want to make a 2D game now. So we've got this sprite sheet. This is actually really easy. You just take the tile sheet, go to your assets, and you can just drag it right in. Yeah. It's really that simple. Or you can go to, if you don't want to do that, you can go to assets and import new asset. And then we can just navigate to whatever file, and it'll jump right into the assets folder, just like it did for this one. So we'll delete that. And yeah, that's how you import assets into Unity, so you can start making your own game. Yeah, I think that's all we've got for today. Good job. This project is done. You're going to move on to, I believe you're going to move on to another project next week. So good job. But we do have some homework for you to do for this week. Specifically, what we want you to do. So there's 3 pieces of homework for each of the 3 sections, one for each. So the first one that we want you to do is, so we've got this car moving, but we want to have it so that when you press a button or when you hold down a button, you go faster. So like you go twice as fast. So say like you hold down the space bar, and your car will go twice as fast. You don't have to put any like sound effects or visual effects or anything like that. But just a simple thing for making the car go faster. There are a couple of ways to do it, but you can figure out your own way. If it works, it works. And so the second one is to get this. There's like an empty version of this project design document, and you're going to make your own original game. You're going to fill all this in, including the project timeline and the project sketch, and make your own game, or like an idea for a game that you want to make. And then what you're going to do is you're going to make a new Unity project, and using that project design document, you're going to find assets either online or in the Unity Asset Store that'll be useful or match with your game, and import them into the project. You don't have to do anything with them, but we just want you to import them and have them in a project. Yeah.
And hey, I'm just going to pop in here to talk about how to actually submit this homework. Now, for the past 2 weeks, the homework assignments were relatively simple, so we didn't stress it too much. But for this week, we are going to want to actually see your homework after the fact, at least to the people, as part of the mentorship program watching this live. If you're looking at this down the line after the fact, then ask whoever is showing you this video as opposed to, taking our word for it. But essentially what we're going to want you to do is just make a GitHub repository, upload these files onto that, and then just DM them to me, Michael Lochnan, on Discord through our Bit Project Discord. If you don't know how to set up a GitHub repository or anything like that, just ask and we'll be happy to help. But we will want to see that homework so that we can look at it, we can give you feedback and get a gauge of where you are relative to where we think that everyone ought to be at this point.
All right. And I think think that's it from me. So I was only your instructor for this week, so I won't be teaching again. But thank you to you guys and to Bit Project for having me. Yeah, this was really fun. And wish you guys luck.
We're happy to have you, Cole. And to the rest of you out there, see you next week. All right. See ya. Bye.
All right.